Hello, everybody, and welcome back at Adobe Live. I'm super excited and honored to be here with the wonderful Tony Harmer. Hi, Tony. How's it going?
Hey, Claudia, it's all good. Oh, this is my excited face. Oh, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm really happy to see you as well. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Claudia. I'm your host, and I'm going to be here throughout the stream, assisting the wonderful Tony and passing all your questions that we're going to be exploring today throughout these 2 hours together while we design with the one and only Design Ninja. In fact, if you know Tony, and I'm sure that many of you that are present in the chat already know the amazing Tony, as he was already here on Adobe Live today at 12 UK time, correct?
Yes, I was. I was for the last day of our film club. Excellent.
Yes. So many of you already know that Tony is an amazing and wonderful author, speaker, instructor, designer, all over Design Ninja. And I must share that. Also, it was my teacher. I started and have a look and exploring the world of design by reading articles written by Tony's and following exercises from magazines at the time by Tony's and CDs and videos. And we have some stories that we're going to delight you with throughout the stream, I'm sure. But to start the day today, I also want to remind everybody that we do have a Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge coming up at 9 a.m. every day with a wonderful Paul Trani. And this week is focusing on the beautiful 36 Date of Type challenges. So make sure to tune in every day for the creative challenges at 9 a.m. But having said that, why don't you tell us more about you, Tony? Let's dive into your website, into your courses, and why don't you share with us a little bit more about you and what you do before we kick off this wonderful day learning new skills and techniques with Illustrator.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Claudia, and thank you for such a lovely intro. And also we've got a little bet running on how long it'll be before the orange juice incident is mentioned, but anyway, we'll leave that till later on. But right, moving on. So the main thing that I do these days is I produce learning content, and I have lots and lots of learning content on LinkedIn Learning, almost exclusively, although not completely. I am on a couple of other platforms as well. And you can see here, I have a whole load of courses. I have a lot of Illustrator content on here. And actually, we did the totals for active learners right now. I've got 376,000 active learners on my Illustrator Essentials alone. So, which is quite a few. I've got 1.6 million people learning with me on everything at the moment.
Wow.
Across the globe, which is pretty crazy, really, across all my graphic design courses, my presentation courses, and so on. And the thumbnail I'm scrolling up to at the moment, you might recognize somebody there on the Learning Illustrator on the iPad, because it's you. I drew you, if you remember.
Yes, I was so surprised. I received one day a message, and it was actually an illustration of me, of my main profile photo that you can find also here on Behance, drew by Tony, and that got me so excited. And Tony, I think I showed my parents first, and then probably everyone who just bothered to listen to me. I was just
it was good, right? It was,
and that's actually a course on Illustrator on the iPad, correct?
It is, yes, indeed, it is there on LinkedIn Learning. So that's like the main stuff that I do. Funnily enough, my Illustrator Essential training is the training that new engineers working on Illustrator do to familiarize themselves with the product, which is kind of crazy, really. So, it's sort of like an Inception kind of thing, right? It's coming out that way. So that's the main gig I have from there. I also have a YouTube channel, which I'm just going to call up just now, if I can, actually.
Absolutely, share away.
Excel, crazy. I'll start typing properly now. So it's youtube.com/thedesignninja. I thought I had that tab.
And Stephen Booth also said, don't forget former astronaut.
Former astronaut. This is true. This is a running gag that we have on Adobe Live. Of course, I'm one of the hosts, as you know, I'm one of the hosts and guests on Adobe Live in the UK. And there's a whole thing started by Tim, the amazing Tim Murbest on there.
Timbot,
who who keeps mentioning my alternate careers, because as you know yourself, I've done a lot of stuff. I've been on the planet a long time and I've never stood still. I've done loads of different things. So yes,
I think I remember saying one time that we met the many lives of Tony.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, you've seen evidence of loads of it. I mean, you stayed at my house, you know what it's all like there. So
yes, a lot of animals. And I know that here in the chat, Tony, we always have a lot of animals lovers. So I must share that there are a lot of paws around your house, which are very sweet and lovely. Perhaps the most well-behaved dogs I've ever seen in my life.
Apart from Bilbo, but Bilbo's cute, so he kind of gets away with it.
Just loud. Really. So let's share.
So, yeah.
Let's share with the chat. Buddy is a sausage. What is the name?
Dachshund. A sausage dog.
Yeah. Because I know the name in Italian, of course, not in English. But yeah, it's just a bit loud. But he's a baby, isn't it?
He is. This is
the baby of the house.
My wife keeps telling me he's no longer a baby. Technically, in dog years, he's a teenager. But he just feels like a baby because he's little and he's cute and he's lovely. He's on Instagram, actually. I haven't put anything on there for ages, but Buddy Yip Yip is, because that's the noise he makes all the time. Yip, yip, yip.
Yep, yep. And I was actually recommending to go and check out your Instagram because there is a wonderful photo of the dogs putting the cat in front of the fireplace. Is that correct?
Yeah,
they were like hugging and sleeping. So cute.
Yeah. Our house is, well, you know what it's like at my house. There's a lot of love goes on in my house, and all the animals get on. There is. And where we are now, the house you haven't visited yet, we've got some interesting neighbors. We've got emus next to us now. So there you go. So yeah, very fond.
The family is growing.
Animals.
The number of paws is multiplying.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, so there you are. That's what I do. You can check out. I don't have that much on Behance, unfortunately. I should have more, but if I just mine's really easy. Behance.net/Harmer is me, because I was working at Adobe when Adobe acquired Behance, so it was easy for me to go in and get my name straight on there. So yeah, so there's a few things on there, a few of the Adobe Lives that I've done, some other stuff like my Illustrator courses, artwork is on there. The 20 years of InDesign infographic that I did for the InDesign team, which I have at the office in New Delhi. My lionfish when I was doing Electric Oceans, that one's on here. So this one's in Illustrator there. So it's a nice vector piece of artwork on there, and loads of other odds and ends. And the thing I did for the 30th anniversary, which is me in my Adobe Illustrator tank, and it's got ink cannons. You can see on the side there, it says ink. So there you go. But anyway, and lots of other odds and ends. That's pretty much it about me. So
before we get started, Tony, I want to remind everybody that is watching on YouTube as well, because you just mentioned your YouTube channel, of course, to go and check out Tony's YouTube channel, but most importantly, to tune in on behance.net/live. That's the place where we're hanging out together, reading the chat. I can see that we have the lovely Voodoo in the chat, and Tony. Hey. Just so you know, when me and Val are together in a stream, usually we do a lot of polls because we love to take into consideration and to embrace the chat feedback into the design. So if you're willing today or tomorrow, because we're also going to be here together tomorrow, we would love to do some polls with you as well. So we can let everybody participate in your work, because that's absolutely quite cool. And of course, Tony, I didn't mention you're based in London. I don't know exactly the place. What's the name? No,
I'm in Cambridge, actually.
Are you in Cambridge?
I'm not in London anymore. We moved out to Cambridge. So yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, so Tony's based in Cambridge. I'm based in Manchester, UK. Please let us know in the chat, where are you based? We're always very excited to see this international community. And again, feel free to ask your questions. Sometimes, Tony, I'm going to have to interrupt you and be rude, interrupt your design flows. But I really want everybody to get some of your wonderful insight. And of course, we can take inspiration to spill the orange juice joke, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I just know it's going to be in there. I'm just hoping that it's in my 10-minute slot for it. So there we go.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. So let us know where you're watching from, and any questions, I will take note towards the end or throughout if there is anything regarding the workflow. But I know that this is a stream packed with fun and so many amazing techniques. So I pass all the attention to you, Tony, and we're ready to go.
Fabulous, excellent. And by the way, I will just say that I've never met Val, but I think that Val and I are kind of kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So I do look forward to the time when I do actually meet her. So there you go.
She's pretty amazing.
All right, then. So what we're going to do over the next 2 days is we are going to explore the power of variable data in Illustrator. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. And the minute you mention the word data, some people go like, no. But I'm going to show you the power of it, and also how easy it is relatively to actually get started with it. Just for example, here on this artboard, I've got a few things going on here, and there are loads of things that we can change, but I have the name Sam just there. Now imagine if I had to produce a load of invites, just arbitrarily, anything like that, for a whole bunch of people. In fact, let me just bring up a list of a whole bunch of people. So let's just say, right, that I had to bring up a list of people like this, and I had to produce an invite for each of them. Now, it'd be a bit, hard to have to go and do that for each and every person to recreate that artwork. But just watch what happens. I'm just going to wind through some data here. I've actually got that panel off screen just at the moment. I'll bring it on shortly. But if I just start clicking through there, you can see that as I do this, the graphics change. So where the names are larger, the graphics go along with that. Okay, and change like so. There's loads of different things going on in there. So there's like a half tone pattern in the background here. There's some blending going on in the middle just there. The text, of course, changes as we go. There's like a scribble thing going on in the background, and you'll see that shapes are punching out of other shapes. And that's where we need to kind of start, really, is with the basics of understanding appearances, right? Because they're the key that we've got here. If we want to do something simple, like just change somebody's name, that's really easy. You could do that. We could do that in a half an hour stream, to do that. If you want to do something that's much cleverer, then appearances are the key to doing that. You work with appearances, right? You've done some work with appearances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. They're so useful. And by the way, Tony, I wanted to let you know that we have Tim in the chat. He came and joined us as well. And I also wanted to say hi to everybody else. So let me mention someone in the chat. We have Sandrine, Medewa, Omicron. I know that we have Portugal in the chat, Texas. We have and Tim is actually saying, what an interesting selection of names, Tony. Fantastic. So welcome everybody. As I say, we're here with the Design Ninja, and we're just getting started. So
we are. Now this actually, Tim, just on the names that I've got in the list here, there's only a couple of people on this list that I actually know. This is a fictitious friends list, and it's generated right from a website. There's a website where you can get random name generators, and I always use those, so I'm not picking on somebody in a particular audience. But it is interesting what you get, right? It's kind of fun. I did sneak the odd one in there, but anyway. Sam, for example, is actually part of the Adobe Live team, and I put that on there. Sam
Peterson.
Yes. No, Sam Shastari, Sam Dorman.
Oh, Sam, yes,
Sam.
Of course.
Yes. Sam. So, right, you could see all of those things changing, but now what we need to do is we need to wind that right back, and start with the fundamentals of building appearances. So I'm just going to create a brand new document just here. In fact, I'll do something that's landscape, so it's easier to see. So if I just do a new file just here, and art and illustration, and there we go, a 1080p document. I spend almost all of my time in 1080p documents these days. And just a couple of things that I need to clear up. First of all, I'm using a modified toolbar. I'm not using the default Illustrator toolbar here. So if you think this one looks strange compared to yours, it's because it's one of mine. And it's easy to make such a thing. And if we get chance later on, if somebody needs to know how to do that, I can talk about it. But the reason for that is because I have a whole load of plugins that are inside of my copy of Illustrator, and I don't want to have all of the tools that go with them there. So if I just go actually and just change it to the advanced toolbar, you can see that I've got a lot of tools in there, and I don't want it to confuse anybody. So I made a special one just for you guys, right? That would make it easier. You will, however, see things inside of my menus that don't exist normally in Illustrator, but you don't need to worry about them. They're just part of that.
I think it's very interesting, Tony, that you mentioned the workspace. I find that it's very important to start from the same look of Illustrator. So thank you so much for making this special exception for us during the stream. And feel free at any point to share how to personalize the workspace. I think that's very, very useful, and it helps to work faster as well.
Yeah, just so you know, by the way, this is based on Essentials Classic, this particular workspace, the workspace switcher here. So it's based on Essentials Classic. I've called it Essentials Live because it overrides that with my own toolbox there. So yes, absolutely. But it is a good idea for people to know where they are. So if they're working along with it, they can just find stuff in their own place. Okay, choose a shape.
Sorry to interrupt you, but my mom is saying ciao to you because she's a fan.
Oh,
she's in the chat. They're learning. They're also interested. Tony managed to get my parents into Illustrator as well.
Oh, that's epic. Epic. I remember your parents being so impressed when you rang me at Christmas and I went, Bon Natale. When you answered, your mum was like, oh, Bon Natale. Right.
Bon Natale.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, right. So choose a shape then, Claudia. You can choose the shape for me. What shape would you like me to do this basic demonstration with?
Can we just go with a polygon?
With a polygon? Yes.
Please.
Okay. Right, so I'm going to draw a polygon like so. How many sides would you like on this polygon? Not that it's important, but I'm just giving you some choices
to play with. 6, please.
6? Oh, well, happy days.
We already have 6. Sorry.
Already
got the screen on the side, so I see 6.
No,
I looked
really
at it, I was like, it's already 6.
Really good. So that's very handy that we've got these 6.
Can I change it to 8, please?
Yes, you can. Well, that's pretty easy because I can just dial this widget up on the side to 8. So there we go. Doof, there we go. Now you've got 8. Super
Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you.
No worries at all. Okay, so whenever you draw anything in Illustrator by default, normally this is what you'll get. You'll get a white fill and a black stroke. And you can see that in 3 different places, at least in Illustrator. You can see it here at the bottom of the toolbox. You can see it in the options bar at the top, or the control strip, which is its proper name in Illustrator. And you can also see it over here in the properties panel. It just tells you that it's got a white fill and a black stroke. And that's because in pretty much all of the Illustrator templates, because Illustrator is driven by templates, that's the way they're drawn, because that's the way they were back in the 80s, like the 1980s, when I had hair. And also,
Honey, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just literally spilled water all over my keyboard.
What is it about you and liquids when you're talking to me?
I can show everybody it's actually happened right now. I'm so sorry, but I pulled a face that definitely let everybody know that something happened. I just get excited.
While you're dealing with that emergency, I'm going to tell everybody just a very brief story.
That's the time.
So just going back quite a few years now, Claudia and I had communicated on several occasions, right? But we never actually hung out or anything like that. And she was coming to an event that I was speaking at. And that was in London, and I happened to be in Manchester where Claudia lives. And she messaged me and I said, I'm actually traveling from Manchester. I'm catching this train. And she was catching the same train. So I gave her my seat number and she came along and she joined me for the trip. And so we sat at this nice carriage on this train with a table with our laptops open and drinks. Like, I have bottles with lids on. Yeah. Claudia had a glass with no lid on, and you can probably see where this is going. And she's talking to me, and all of a sudden she just gestures and over goes the glass straight over my laptop. Now, fortunately, I've been on a lot of trains where people will open containers. So as they say in the US of A, not my first rodeo. We were very quick to clean it up, and it was so funny. And then, yes, nothing happened.
Well,
Although
that's his side of the story. My side of the story is that I wanted to shrink that small because I want to remind everybody that I was a student and I was going to go there to listen to Tony's sessions. So Tony has been my guru, teacher, mentor for many years, and I was fun. So your side of the story is much more relaxed than mine. That's been a make it or break it. Luckily, nothing happened to the laptop, so we became friends, and it's a fun story. But there's been very few seconds in which I thought, you know what, I'm done.
I did punish you though. I did make you stand up in front of the audience and just said, if anything goes wrong with today's show,
in a movie
this is who you can blame it on. But fortunately, we're all good. Okay, you okay now? You've got all of your liquor stuff sorted.
Yeah,
okay.
Besides my pants.
That we can't do anything about right now, so you'll just have to grin and bear it. Unfortunately,
I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine.
Or don't stand up. Right, it's
I
your
definitely
choice.
won't.
It's entirely up to you.
I'll share a photo on Instagram, but I won't stand up, I promise. Right, sorry for that.
No worries. Right, back onto the thing we're doing here. So here's this shape. Okay, shape's not desperately relevant, okay, but it's kind of handy. And it's very handy that you chose a polygon, actually, because I've just thought of something else I can add into that. So that's kind of nice. So we've got this default fill and stroke. In fact, if you tap D on your keyboard, normally this is what you will end up with, right? You'll end up with this fill. If I just change the fill here, so it's to change it out for green, and let's really make that wake up there by just pushing up that. So there you go. That's hurting my eyes. I don't know about yours.
It's okay, pretty bright.
It's a pretty good illustration of what I'm after. If I tap D, it goes back to that. So you can see white fill, black stroke. Okay, 1 point stroke. Now that's something you can change. If we need to, later on, we can talk about that. We can see that appearance in several places, as I mentioned, but none of those places are as cool as this one, the appearance panel. And like all panels in it, almost all panels in Illustrator, okay, it lives here in the window menu. Okay, so that's where you'll find these things here. So appearance is the real deal just here. This is what we actually want to get hold of, and we'll do something cool with this very shortly. Right, so here I can see the stroke, and this gives me access to all of those panels. You can see there's like hyperlinks here to access the stroke panel. If I click on the next one, then I get access to the swatches panel. If I hold down Shift and click on that, then I get access to the color panel, like so. So that's something that changes just by using that. And then I've got the most popular option, 4 strokes, which is changing the weight next to it. Similarly, with the fill, I've got those options. And in fact, I've also got options underneath them for their own transparency. That's kind of cool. So let's make some changes from here. Let's go for a yellow fill just there, and then go to modify that. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click just there and warm that up a little bit by adding in some red to that. Okay, and then I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to add another fill. Now I can do that in 2 different ways. Well, actually I can do 3, because I can also use a menu just here. Okay, so I can use that one. That's like the really long way of doing it. That's the one you do if you're sat in a really nice chair and your butler's doing all the work in Illustrator. You can go, Jeeves, go to the flyout menu. Yes, sir. And choose add new fill. Yes, sir. There you go. You can do it that way because that takes a while, but there you are. You can also click on this icon down at the bottom, okay, to add a new fill. But the way you can do it if you want to be a ninja is using this undocumented shortcut. It's at times like this I wish I had a thing that flashed on, undocumented shortcut. Okay, hold down the command key on a Mac, control key on a window machine, and hit slash, and you can see it adds a new fill. So now this has got 2 fills on exactly the same object. Okay, and then I can change that fill. So it would be a bit boring for me to just add another color because you're not really going to see the benefit of it. So I'm going to go to the loader in the swatches panel just here, which I can still access from this particular place. I'll go down to patterns, basic graphics, and I'm going to choose basic graphic dots. It could be any one of these things, by the way, but that's just the one I'm going to choose for now. Okay, and that panel appears like so. Let's just try and make these a bit larger. So if we choose large thumbnail view, okay, I'm just thinking about people who might be watching on their phone. It'll make it easier for them to see. And also that's a handy way, an excuse for me, because in my tired old eyes, I don't have to like go, ugh. Anyway, just kidding. Right, so I'm going to choose one of these patterns. So if I choose this 6 dpi at 30% frequency dot, now you can see how that's working. So the two are working together to change that appearance. Let's go for the stroke and change something specifically about the stroke. In fact, let's just make it a whole lot wider, just here like so. So I'll go for 30 points on this one. And now I'm going to add a new fill. Again, undocumented shortcut. This time it's the same as the other one, but all you need to do is add in the Alt or Option key. So I'm on a Mac, so I'll be the Option Command slash, like so. That's Alt Control slash on Windows. And you'll see immediately I've got a whole brand new stroke. So I'll change the color of that one. Now I've got a different yellow there. So what I might do is just pop back here to the fill and create a new swatch. Oof, there we go. So now I can have the same matching yellow just there. Nice and quick and easy to do. Now if I change the width of that stroke, you can see how I'm starting to draw something completely different, okay, using just one object here. So maybe we could add something else into that. Let's go ahead and add another fill. So I'm going to add one on top of this fill just here. And you can almost treat these like object specific layers. They're not layers as such, but they are layered on the object, just the object only. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new fill. In fact, I think I'll do it from the bottom just here. Okay. And I'm going to add it behind the other. So I'll choose the one behind here. Let's fill that with maybe this kind of magenta-like color. Now, at the moment, we can't see it because it's hiding underneath all of these other ones, but we're going to change that. What we're going to do is we're going to apply an effect to this fill. So if I go to effects just here, and then I have a whole bunch of things, I've got some extra ones in there too. Okay, but the ones at the top, everybody will have. Okay, and I'll just choose transform, and I get this panel. So what I want to do here is I'm going to scale this down a bit, okay, 80% in both directions, and then I'm going to move it. Now, the sliders there are in the middle, yeah. The geometry in Illustrator works from the top left-hand corner, so that's the 0 point. Moving across to the right means bigger numbers, moving across to the left means smaller numbers, and vertically, moving down means bigger numbers, moving up means smaller numbers. So if I want this to move to the left, I'm going to enter some minus numbers just here, and you'll start to see that poking out from underneath that graphic, like so. And maybe I want to move that vertically upwards. Yeah, so I'll make smaller numbers there, like that. And maybe I want to rotate it around just a little bit, like so. Okay. And I can also specify where that transformation is taking place just down here. That's not too much in one go, right? That's kind of all right with that so far.
We're all good. We have a question from Rob, Tony.
Yes.
Rob is asking, can you add gradient to these effects? And then we have a wow as well following.
We can add gradients. And do you know what? I'm going to change this to a gradient with this finger this quickly.
Woo,
there you go.
Like a ninja.
Like a ninja. Yeah. So just so you know, what I did there was I actually tapped the period key on my keyboard, right? Or the full stop if you're British. Yeah. But for everybody else, the period key.
For a second, yeah. I was like, what?
Yeah, I know. I know. Let me just go back to the appearance panel just for a second. I'm going to undo that because I want to show you.
By the way, I want to remind everybody to get the, some notepads and some pen, because those, and the one that you shared before, as you say, they are undocumented shortcuts. So you really want to make sure that you take notes, because we can
absolutely.
It's we all discover it as we go here.
Yes. So there are 3 keys on your keyboard that will change what your fills and strokes do. Okay. Just so you know, here in the appearance panel, whichever thing I've got focused like this, right? That's the technical term for kind of selected, right? So the object itself is selected, but this attribute is selected. On any other thing, you can just look at the toolbox here and see if the fill or the stroke is in front and back. Okay, so whichever one of those is in front will be affected by this. Okay, so the slash key on my keyboard will remove a fill or the painting of a stroke. The period key will apply a gradient to a fill or a stroke, and the comma key will apply a solid color to that. And those shortcuts work in InDesign as well. Okay, so you can use those in both of those applications if you're working with them. Right, so I've just hit the period key again, and so I've got a gradient. So who was it who was asking the question? Was it Rob?
Rob. Yep.
Rob. There you go, Rob. There's your answer. And not only that, you get gradients in there, but you get them ninja style as well. Right, so now, of course, I might want to change that particular gradient. Maybe, I don't know, add some color in like so. I'm not trying to draw anything particular here, by the way. I'm just drawing stuff. Yeah. If I want to change where that fill is in the stacking order, I can actually drag that upwards in that stack like so. All right. If I want to change the transform that's applied to it, you can see just underneath that, if I just twirl this closed, where I've got this disclosure triangle, if I twirl that open, I can see everything that's working with that effect. And if I want to change the transform, you don't go back to the menu to get to it. That's a common mistake. And you get this warning. Right, if I go and do that just now, so if I just, with that targeted, I might actually have the warning turned off. Ah, there you go. That's the warning you get. Yeah, you'll get a new instance of the effect. Sometimes you want that, right? But not always. So you don't go to that if you want to change it. If I just click on transform here, however, it opens it up and the effect is there. So let's just say I wanted to change the scale, you know, make that maybe smaller in one direction or both directions, whichever. Yeah, from there, then it's easy to do that. Any of those things can be changed from there. If you decide you don't want, I'm just going to cancel out of that, an effect, you simply click on it, okay, and drag it down to the trash, and that transformation is gone. Okay, so really easy to do. Also here we have this opacity option, and this is just for this fill, not for the whole object. That is down at the very bottom here. So if I click on opacity, right, and now I can start to change this. I can change the opacity generally. That's the first change in transparency. And I can also change the way it blends. We can talk about blending if you want to. Well, we'll have to at some point. So we can talk about that. I've got a file ready to go with the 3 most essential blend modes. And how are the chat with their blend modes? Do they know?
So there is no comment on the blend modes, but there is a question or a statement, I will just say, from Robert saying, can you say that the appearance panel is layer style, what layer style is in Photoshop?
No. Sort of, a little bit. Yeah. They've got there's something in common, but there's also a lot of things that are very, very different. I mean, for not everything in the layer styles in Photoshop can have multiple instances. You can have multiple instances of strokes in there. So you can do some things to change objects, but here you can actually change the entire nature of an object. You can change what it is. So so let's just say, for example, I didn't want that octagon on top. I didn't want it to be an octagon. I wanted it to be a circle. Yeah, I can do that. Here, I can just go ahead and choose convert this to an ellipse, and suddenly it's an ellipse. So awesome. There's something in common, but it's not that much there. They do change appearances, and you can save these appearances and apply them to other things as well. You can go ahead and we'll do that actually. So here in the graphic styles panel, what I can do is, with an object selected, I can click on the plus here if I want to, or simply drag an object in like so. Okay, it will create this style. If I just undo that, and this time I'm going to click the plus, but hold down the Alt or Option key so that I can name it. So if I do that, then we'll call this one Clardy. Why not?
Of course.
Should have a style called Clardy. which means if I want to draw other objects, yeah, let's change the number of sides maybe on this one. So there we go. Well, actually 6 was good. We had changed the number of sides. I can click on that style and suddenly you'll see that I have that appearance. Now, some of that depends on the size of the objects, which is a thing, right? Sometimes that happens, those things, but you can see with one click, yeah, how you can apply that. And if I wanted to maybe change that up a little bit, so let's just say if I go to this one here and I decide that I don't like that gradient for whatever reason, and I want to replace it with maybe a pattern, I can then drag that object into the graphic styles panel, but hold down the Alt or Option key and target the style I want to change. Okay, and then it will change anything using the style. Now, before I do that, what I need to do first of all is make sure that this one's using that style. There we go. We'll try that again, this time for reals. Yeah, so here we are, drag that in and suddenly that changes. Yeah. So
that's amazing. Very Those powerful. Are real ninja tricks.
Ninja things.
Ninja tips and techniques. And we have a couple questions, Tony.
Yeah.
So one is from Rob Magnell. So we have Rob and Robert in the chat. So we have Rob asking, in InDesign too, there is a similar appearance panel. And also saying, sorry, I'm stuck in InDesign 2017 also. So maybe you can enlighten us about InDesign. And I'm just going to pop the other question there. So as well, from, again, Rob asking, does the appearance panel hold when you change color modes from RGB to CMYK?
Yeah, kind of, right? If you've got blending operations in there, so let me just draw something else out for a second so we can see how some of that works. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and fill this with a color, and I'm going to add another fill using my Ninja shortcut and change that to a gradient, and then I'm just going to use one of the default gradients just here like so. Do you know what? That would be even better if that object was selected. Let's try that one more time, this time with feeling. Okay, so new fill, gradient, and I'm just going to do this from black to black, okay, with the second black stop at 0%. And I can tell you why I've done that in just a minute. Okay, because it is worthwhile knowing. It's what's called a shading gradient. So this is an RGB document. Blending modes work best in RGB, okay, because there are only 3 inputs, red, green, and blue. When you add in a 4th input, so C, M, Y, and K, yeah, things become slightly different because they're not exactly opposite from one another, but they're kind of opposite. They're almost opposite one another because one of them's got 4 inputs and one of them's got 3 inputs. So that's why they can't be exactly opposite, but they are close enough. So if I change this document to CMYK, or if I even change the document color mode from here, yeah, you may notice some things that have changed. You may notice nothing at all. It depends entirely on what you've got in there. Certainly if you change to CMYK, the deep saturated colors that you can access in RGB, they will change because their gamut won't stretch to as far as these are. Okay, so most blending operations work in there. My question would be is, would you need to work in CMYK in the first place? Yeah, if it's being printed, most printers will use something called the APPE, the Adobe PDF print engine, and the Adobe PDF print engine contains a high-end conversion package. If you're saving, you need to save to a particular document profile for it, okay, and then it will do the translation, yeah, as much as it can. The plain fact of the matter is you're not going to achieve the super saturated colors that you get from CMYK, from RGB in CMYK, but it will try and get you closer by changing the values of other colors around it. Does that make sense? So
yeah, and I think that's a general color translation on screen when working with RGB. So it doesn't only affect the appearance panel, it's just a general theme with RGB and CMYK.
Yeah, but you could see the appearance panel didn't change, but if I was using some blending modes, it might do. Yeah. Do you know what? let's cook up something. Let's do one.
Let's do it.
Let's cook up something that will illustrate this, I think, perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw top prizes. If you can tell me what keys, by the way, I'm tapping when I'm changing these things quickly. So I just went to the default appearance just there. So if the chat is recognizing,
we have a bit of delay, so we might need to give him a little bit extra time. But
okay,
if you keep working, let us know in the chat the shortcuts or the key command that Tony is pressing while he's very quickly jumping from one action to the other.
Yes.
Without touching the tools.
Without touching the tools. Okay, I'm just doing this one by eyeball. I'm not doing anything particularly clever with the shape I'm drawing here. But that will do. Something like that is good. I could have rotated these around to make this shape much more quickly, but do you know what? I feel like doing it this way.
And I want to remind everybody, Tony, to use the chat on Adobe Live. I know that many of you are watching also on YouTube, but we are on behance.net/Adobe Live. That's the place where we are hanging out together with the wonderful Adobe Live community. So make sure to jump on behance.net/Adobe Live. We're here together hanging out with Tony. You have the possibility of sharing your comments if you spot the shortcuts that he's using right now, and feel free to put it in the chat. And also pop your questions there, because I will be gathering questions while Tony works for the end of the stream, but also throughout the stream while we are working. So Stuart is saying, so we have some command 0 or 1. We have some letter F from Gareth. I think it's just kind of, and also like a weird emoji face. I just think is participating to the fun. And Oliver, Stuart is saying it's all muscle memory for me. So
that's what makes it quick, right? To do those things. And the quicker you can get stuff done, the more time you've got to make creative choices. The only key that I haven't used in there was F. Yeah, because I should imagine that's something a little bit cheekier, to be honest, right? But I can tell you what F does. F changes the screen mode of Illustrator, so you'll cycle through the different modes. So if I tap F just now, okay, you'll notice that everything becomes undocked. If I tap F again, you can see I go full screen, and F again, it brings me back to where I was before. Also, I've got something hiding over there. Okay.
And Tim is suggesting the very popular Command Q.
Command Q. Thanks, Timbot.
Fantastic.
Cheeky man. Cheeky man. Okay, right. So let's have a quick look at these things here. I'm going to do a quick bit of blend mode stuff here. You don't need to worry too much about that just at the moment. Okay. What I'm going to do is change the stack order. Oh, I did these ones the wrong way around. That's hilarious. Let me just change that. There we go. Something like that. And we change this one like so. There we are. Okay.
Perfect.
So this is kind of how RGB works, right? So we've got our 3 inputs, red, green, and blue. Yeah, when you add red and green together, you get yellow. When you add red with blue, you get magenta. And when you add blue and green, you get cyan. Spookily close to what's going on over on the right-hand side here, but kind of the opposite way around, right? In that these, okay, are producing the primaries of the opposite model, kind of. You can already see here, though, I have chosen different colors, so it's not working exactly the same way, right? But you can see that these add up, and this is the way ink works. That's why CMYK is the way it is, because ink gets laid out on paper. When you add all 3 of the RGB colors together at their maximum intensity, that gives us white. When we have all 3 of the ink-based colors, it gives us, now you could say black in the middle, but actually it's not really that black. And that's why K is in there. And the K, just so you know, stands for key, right? Because that gives it a relational base on which everything else appears to be normal. Okay, so that's kind of how that whole thing works. And if you change the document blend mode, let's just see if this one if this one changes dramatically. I'm expecting it to change a little bit, but there you go. So you can see that the blending there has changed quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, the colors have dampened down somewhat, but have a look at what's gone on here, right? You've now got a brown in the middle there, nowhere near like the black. So if that was happening inside an object in the appearance panel, then you could expect the changes to be the same way. I know it's a long way round answering that, but there you go. That's kind of how it works. Does that make sense?
I think that was a brilliant explanation, and also having the visual helps a lot. So thank you for putting this together. And I think that that's a really good experiment to do when playing with paint. And I just want to mention, because I know you a little bit, Tony, and I know how much you implement also working off screen as a very important part of the process, and to stay fresh with your creation, and to also to understand how things work in the world, in order to understand also how they work when we create a project. So of course, if you mix up some paint, you can see these brown purple color coming up. And there is also a technique in which we produce rich black as well, because as you mentioned, in CMYK, the color is more brownish rather than black.
Yes. Well, actually, if we just go ahead and create a CMYK document just here, because these things are all useful things to have. Let's just change this around. So I'm just using my artboard tool for a moment, just to maximize the area that I have to work with on screen. So you mentioned a rich black, because CMYK black, natural mixed black is pretty weak. And in fact, even the black ink itself is pretty weak. So I'm just going to change these things over. I've just hit the slash key, okay, to remove the fill, because the fill is in front, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and tap X to transpose those over. So now the black stroke has become the black fill. If we go ahead and have a look at the mix for this, this is just giving us 100% black ink, right? But that can look kind of dull on paper. So if you add, say, maybe like 10 or 15% cyan into that, something in that sort of ballpark. Sometimes you can add a bit of magenta in as well. It depends on what black you're after. You don't want to add all of the things all of the time, because it just looks muddy. Yeah, it just doesn't work quite the same way. And your printer might have a recommendation for rich black if you're printing stuff out. But if we compare these two things together, so if I just go ahead and create another thing for us to have two of, yeah, and I'll dial this one down to just 0% and then bring them close together. I don't know how well you can see that. Probably not that well on this screen, because the screen's always trying to do the best job for us. But there would be a difference. If you had that in ink, you would see a noticeable difference with those two things together. But anyway, that's a drift away from where we are with some dynamic stuff.
That's the beauty of learning the ninja skills. And we have some comments as well regarding using 40, 30, 30, 100 for rich black from Raquel. Sorry if I pronounce her name incorrectly, but between my Italian accent and the fact that I mispronounce name all the time.
Is that Raquel from Portugal?
Raquel Costa.
Yes.
Raquel Costa from Portugal.
Yes. Hi.
And also Stuart is saying, not all those, some printers get angry. Now, well, as Tony mentioned, 15 was suggesting just 1%. The whole point is to add a cyan or a magenta in order to give some depth and make the black color richer. But I personally suggest always to have a good communication with your printer. There is no harm at all to pick up the phone. They probably hate me because I ring all the time, but I always pick up my phone and ask questions or drop them an email. They'll be the best point of reference for you to narrow down this specific for their machine and for their experience as well. And it's always, something that you can learn, and printers may do different things differently. So, and there is no harm into learning different techniques.
I've got to be honest. I don't get called that much by printers these days, but I used to get called by them a lot. And I had someone call me and said they wanted to share a file with me. This is before you could just share files like that. So I had to go over and pick it up on a disk, or have a look at it in situ, right? Because they were refusing to print it. And they needed someone to gently explain to the designer why they were refusing to print it. And so I thought, what is this file that they're doing to do that? And anyway, I went there, and it had 17, if I recall correctly, spot colors inside of it. Yeah, they refused to print it because it was just
ridiculous.
It would cost them a fortune, and it probably wouldn't have printed either, because the calculation with spot colors very, very different.
Yes.
Shall we take the whole appearance thing to another level?
Let's do it.
How are you feeling about that? So
excited.
I'm going to use the regular pen tool here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is add a point like that, and then I'm going to hit escape, because that single anchor point with no dimension whatsoever, yeah, because an anchor point on its own, you can't see it. Yeah, it's just infinitely thin, infinitely small. It just occupies a particular location in
just
space.
A dot in the universe.
It's not even a dot is what it dreams of being. A dot is like,
love that.
One day I'll have some sort of dimension. A dot is it's the thinnest thing you could ever think of. It's that, you know, that thing where they say, like, making a step towards a wall and just do half a step each time and you'll never eventually get to the wall. It's that thin. Yeah, Illustrator gives it a tiny appearance because otherwise it would be very hard to work with. Yeah, but that is the only appearance it has. If I sent this page to print, there would be no mark on it whatsoever. Okay, so with this particular stroke, I'm going to tap D to give it its default appearance, which is hilarious, right? Because it hasn't got one. I'm going to go to the fill here and change the color of it. And what should we draw? Have you got any particular thing in mind you'd like to draw? Spoiler, it's probably going to be circle oriented or square oriented, or not necessarily though.
Let's go for a square.
Challenge me.
Let's go for a square. Let's keep it nice, and let's keep the evening rolling here with a square.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to go convert to shape, which we saw earlier. I'll choose rectangle. Just here. I think I'm going to go for absolute measurements. Now, because I'm not losing focus, right, on what we're doing with the dynamic documents. These are all the foundational things you kind of need to understand before you can make the most of dynamic documents. So we're spending most of our time today in looking at the foundational aspects. Not all of it, but quite a lot of it. Okay, so we've got choices to make here, right? We can make things that are absolute or relative. Absolute means it will have absolutely the dimensions that you input underneath. Relative means it will change based on the size underneath it. So if I had a piece of text, for example, and I wanted that to change, in fact, you know what? I could do that at the same time. I'll just do this one, absolutely, and then I'll change it. I'll change something else to relative. Right, so I'm going to say here, I'm using millimeters, by the way, so I'm just going to change this to, actually, I'll go quite big. I'll go to 200 millimeters in both directions, like so. Okay, and I'll hit OK. Now I'll come back to this single anchor point in just a second. I'm just going to drop a piece of text on here. I can't possibly imagine what I might want to type though. So I think I'll just go with Clardy. There we are, like so. It's you again.
Just a name. Do you know many other Claudies?
Oh no, you're the only Clardy I know.
The only Claudia. I always wanted to Google and check, but I think that my history just kind of brings up my name, my things anyway.
No, you're the only one, which makes it nice and easy. There's no
no confusion.
There's no contest for you in my phone book. It's nice. I really don't know what font to use just for this quick demonstration, but I think do you know what? I'm just going to choose Bungee Regular. Here's a piece of type that we know, right? We can see that. And in fact, if we look in the appearance panel, it goes, hey, type, you've got characters. That's because of the funny way, and we'll deal with this when we're dealing with the dynamic graphics later on, the separation that Illustrator has between characters and type. In fact, if I double click on characters just here, you can see stroke and fill. Okay, there. If I go back to type, no appearance. Right, now I've got that. Right, good. I'm going to add a new fill using one of the shortcuts that I mentioned earlier. Okay, and I'm going to make that magenta, like so. I'm going to drag that down beneath the characters, so you can't see it because it matches the shape in every way. And then I'll use that effect, convert to shape, rectangle. Okay, so here I'm going to go with relative. I'm going to say add 20 millimeters onto the side of that, 30 millimeters. There you go, that will do. For the extra height, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, like so. Okay, perfect. I've chosen something with a massive base drop on it. But anyway, right, so there we go. 40 millimeters there. So I've got this new fill. Do you know what? I can't just leave it like that. I'm going to have to just go and add a transform effect as well and move that vertically upwards. Like so. So if I was making a name badge for you, Clardy, and there we go. Right, we've got a name badge like so. And remember, I've used that relative unit with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is change the name because my name is shorter than your name. Like so. And you can see now it changes. And in fact, Tim in the chat, Tim's name is even shorter than both of our names. Okay. And if you had a really long name, I don't know, like, I'm just going to pick on one of the names from my list here. Did you get it? So it's all relative to that object it's changing. Fantastic. There we are.
There we go.
Right. So let's go on with this one. So that's what the relative and absolute thing does. But it can have a bearing. It doesn't mean you don't have to use one or the other. You can sometimes use both. It just depends on what you're doing. Okay, so I've got that fill just there from that single anchor point. I think what I'm going to do is change this to a circle, actually. I'm bored with rectangles. I'm going to go like that. There we are. I'll just change it like that. You can see how easy that was to do. I just clicked on that. Okay, it just gave me the choice up here between rectangle, rounded rectangle, and ellipse. And then I can make any changes I want from there, like so. If I want to change the size, easy. Remember, it's still technically one anchor point. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that fill. So using the plus icon just here, that's what the plus does, is it duplicates any item that's selected from there. I'll change this one to white, like so, and I'll go for the ellipse, and I'll bring this one down to 220-ish, maybe 210. There, like so. Okay, making it the same in both sides. I'm going to duplicate that one. I'm then going to choose the blue that I had earlier. Go to the ellipse just here, like that. Bring that down and change that. So I'm building a sort of target thing here. Okay, and I'll do one more. I'll change. And
by the way, Tanya,
to red. Yes.
While you create one more, I want to share one of Kevin's comments. So Kevin was asking for his name as well before, but mainly the comment that caught my attention is that Illustrator is so much more interesting with Tony's accent. Just saying.
Oh, thank you so much. I was born with it, you know. Well, that's not technically true. I mean, I just have to learn some of it, but they will.
Well, someone said that they spotted a Mancunian accent out of me talking, but I don't know if that's.
Did you know you do have a little bit of a Mancunian ring, you know?
Really?
You do. Every now and then there's something. It's kind of weird.
Every now and then between the other 7 accents that I got going on.
Between the multiple accents that you choose to employ, you do. There are some words that you say that just come across completely Mancunian. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to duplicate the fill that I've got here and drag this up to the top of the stack here. I'm also going to remove that stroke. If I hit delete here, by the way, it won't remove the stroke. It will just set it to nil. And here I'm going to use a gradient like so, and I'm going to edit that gradient. I think I'll go with, okay, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'll go radial, I'll go black to black, like so, and feel free to ask me at any point why it's black to black. Okay, and I'll happily tell you. I'll change this end as well to maybe 60%, maybe 40% just there. Then I'm going to get my gradient tool. Of course, I can't move this one because it's on a single anchor point, but with other things I can. But you can see how I've added a little bit of dimension, okay, to that shape just by using that gradient on top. But just remember also that it's still a single anchor point. If I go into outline mode, okay, like so, Command Y, Control Y to do that.
Mind blowing.
There you go. So you've still got that one anchor point just there, but it's actually making something that you could view. And there's whole kinds of crazy things that you can make with that. And so I have a friend called in Germany, Monica Gausser, and she's the hands down the best at the single anchor point stuff. She's got more free time than I do, though, to be fair. But we love playing this game of making stuff with single anchor points. It's good fun.
That's so amazing. And there is my question for the black to black gradient. Can you please dive in that? We'll love to know.
Oh, absolutely. I will share that with you right now. I'll just move this over to the side, just over here. So we've got it. Right, let's go ahead and demystify that. For this trick, I will use a rectangle like so. Okay, nice big chunky one so you can see what's going on in it. And I'm going to use one of those default white to black gradients. Okay, so if I also draw a line here, so I'm going to use one of the line tools, because I'm just hitting backslash on my keyboard to get the line tool. I'm going to click and drag, holding down the Option key or Alt key to draw from the center. And I will give that a nice, easy to see, thick red stroke just there. Okay, and I think also I'll Option drag one of those to the other end. In fact, to both ends of that. I'll select those, click the rectangle line to the right, and I'll select both of these two, click the rectangle, making it a key object, and a line to the left, like so. Okay, so with this gradient, on the left-hand side, we have white. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
On the right-hand side, we have black. What do we have in the middle underneath where the red line is? In fact, just to make, there you go. Let's just move those up a bit like so. So what do we have just there in the middle? We have gray, right?
Gray, yes.
Absolutely. So if we applied a gradient with opacity in it, so let's just go ahead and shrink this one down. Okay, and if I drag another copy away from it, so this time I'll go back to the gradient, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the white here completely transparent. Okay. So what do we have now on the left-hand side? Right, we have white, but it's completely transparent.
Mm-hmm.
On the right-hand side, we have black, but it's completely opaque. And in the middle, we still have gray, but it's semi-transparent gray. Now, at the moment here, you're probably thinking, yeah, that's fine. You could live with that. But there are times when that doesn't work very well, especially for some reason, if you're using radial gradients to shade objects, you can end up with kind of a halo inside the gradient that just shows you, just gives this odd look to what you're doing. So if you make it the same color at either end, then you know that in the middle, you've actually got 50% transparent black, yeah, or 50% transparent white, because there are two kinds of shading gradients primarily, yeah, although you can use any color to shade, yeah. And as long as the colors match on either end, then you'll get a gradient. Darker colors will shade for shades and lighter colors will shade for tints. And there you are. It's using overuse of the word shade to the point where it means nothing, but there you go.
I think that's so useful, especially when making mock-ups. I see, sometimes during design review, on when we see our lovely challenges submitted on Discord. That's why I really wanted for you to explain, and you explain it in a very wonderful way. I think it's important for people to understand how to use gradients, especially when used, again, to create shadows multiplied on other objects, because that's really when you see the difference, especially because the multiply or other blend modes really bring in all the different subtlety, and especially when we have a white, it makes your design change very much so make sure to use that black to black or black to transparent, using the black on the other side. And that's also useful with the freeform gradients. Sometimes when I want to shade between two different color and I want to create a mix within the same gradient in a shape, I tend to duplicate the same color spot twice before I transition to another color, just to create a smoother transition. Yeah,
you can make all of that work on there. I mean, the freeform gradients can be super fun, can't they, for this kind of thing?
We have Alexander saying ninja tips. And for those of you who are joining us now, we are a midpoint here in this wonderful stream with Tony Harmer, the design ninja. We are here together working with dynamic assets in Illustrator, but most importantly today we're focusing on the foundation, really understanding how the appearance panel works and why we do what, which is very, very important when making choices before starting your project. So today we're diving in all these beautiful foundations, also shortcuts, really to learn how to work in a more clever, smarter way together using these ninja techniques. But tomorrow we're also going to be developing more into the actual artwork. So make sure to stay tuned until the end of the stream today, and also join us tomorrow here on behance.net/live. And I'm sorry to repeat it over and over, Tony, but I know that we have a lot of people watching us on YouTube, and I really want everybody to come and join the chat here on Behance. We're having a lot of fun. Everybody's saying hello, loving the stream. Stony is actually saying, I feel like I walked into a class late. I'm definitely going to watch the replay. It's so interesting. Absolutely. The replay will be available. And Tony, we are loving it. So let's keep going.
Groovy. Okay. So we have those things for shading. I just added a freeform gradient there with the opposite color. So knowing a bit about color is kind of handy sometimes. Here with the freeform gradient I've got here, let me just change this back to normal. Okay, there I had it in multiply, and so I've basically only got two colors in this gradient. Okay, I've got this purple, which is sort of towards the opposite of yellow, if not the exact opposite of yellow. Right, and then I changed that blend there, and away it went, and did that. In fact, it's handy sometimes to have one of these. Do you have a color wheel at your desk? Do you keep a color wheel?
Yeah, it's behind me as well. I love that we have our just right behind me.
I have them all over the place. So you can see they're yellow on one side, magenta on the other, purple on the other. And so darker or opposite colors will often work well if applied as a shader, and you end up with a more natural looking color. And this art lesson is brought to you by Claudia from...
We have a Mwenda in the chat saying, and again, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, but he's saying, I'm actually taking notes. Yes. That was me at every Tony class. I was probably the annoying student, always wanting to be acknowledged and always like saying, yes, please, can I answer each question?
You're a very good student. You're a really good student.
I remember following your class throughout each event, Tony. You couldn't miss me.
You've done a lot of studying with me, and then you've kind of. It's been great watching you go where you've gone with it since, though. That's been the great thing over the last sort of 4 or 5 years or so.
I think it's exciting to be here together.
Yes. What I've done here now, by the way, is people often forget that you can apply gradients to strokes as well, and that's what I've done on this particular object. So we can see how that can help us out with modifying appearances here. So I've applied that to a stroke. I'm now going to go to the gradient panel. I need to make sure that my stroke has focus, so it's in front in the toolbox just here. It's the quickest place to look to do that. And then I can change how the stroke is applied. So I can apply it, but at the moment it's as if it was, if I go with the default here, it's almost as if it was an opacity mask through to a gradient underneath, right? You can see the gradient running from white on one side to black on the other side. If I choose this option, the gradient will be applied along the stroke. So the 0 point for any circle is the right hand point just here. That just is the way it is. And in fact, on the other shapes, the 0 connector the 0 anchor point rather, you'll find on the right hand side on the edge line. So just the way it works. So you can see that's going from white and the gradient is being drawn along the stroke there. And then we have this option, okay, to apply the gradient across the stroke. So look what happens if I choose black just here for this. Okay, so I'm going to choose black at 0% opacity just there. I'm then going to flip this over. So I'm going to use the reverse gradient just there. And now I'm going to bring the gradient in, because at the moment, as you can see here, it's just being drawn across the stroke, but the center of the stroke matches the center of the object. So what size stroke have I got there? 46 points, that's fine. Half of 46 is 23. So I'm going to go to the appearance panel here. Okay, with that stroke selected, I'm going to go to the effects and choose this path, offset path option. Okay, and the offset I want to do there is negative, a negative number, right? 23 points, because the stroke is in points, not millimeters. Yeah, and when I do that, if I tab through, you'll now see that that's inside the stroke. I'm actually going to make that quite a bit bigger, actually. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for 40 points. So minus 40 points. I'm then going to dial that in. Let's have a look. I'm just tabbing through that. That's working pretty well. And then I'm going to change the stroke width to 80 points. There we go, like that. So now I've got this nice kind of shading thing going on. I can reduce the opacity of the one on this end here. So this is another way that I'm adding some dimension to an object, but it's still just a circle. Yeah, and that could just as easily be attached to some text. Yeah, so you could imagine that this to me looks like a sort of a cafe sign. If I had the word cafe and just had this circle behind it, it's one object for me to move. One object and everything is there. Makes it nice and easy. And more importantly, for what we're doing here, it makes it dynamic. So if I had text such as names that were going to change, in fact, we could do something fun with this, you know. Do you fancy trying an experiment?
Oh, yes, let's do this.
Okay, let's start out. I'm going to pick on your name again, Claudia, because it's a lovely name.
My mom came up with it. Like, my name is actually Claudia. It's Claudia in Italian.
Claudia Beatrice.
And I'll tell you a very quick story. So everybody here would, because I moved to the US when I was very young. So everybody would call me Claudia, because that's how you pronounce it in English. And I was very upset, because one of the things that my mom always said about my name is that you smile when you say my name. Because Claudia just bring the smile, and Claudia will bring a frown. And of course, we do love to see people smile. So my mom actually came out with Claudia, because Claudia is similar to Claudia, or Claudia is a nickname that works in every language, but most importantly, makes you smile when you say it. So that's the story behind it.
So epic. She's lovely. We've never actually met in person, me and your mama, but we've, you know.
I know, but they adore you as if, like, you know.
Oh, she texts me.
She texts you.
Nice. She does.
And by the way, Tony, I didn't want to take extra time before, because I already spilled the water and done enough of a show. But my mom was actually here with a fake name.
Was she?
I know, because she has like a multiple accounts. She has names of flowers.
Hey, your mum going with all the skills.
Yes. Yes. She actually used to paint when she was younger as well. So that's the thing where the creative twist comes from.
Crazy.
Yeah, but she was here lurking with a different name.
What I think I'm going to do is let me just try and make that a graphic style. I'm going to get this text here and see if I can apply that on top. No, it's not ready for that yet. Okay, right, I can remove that one anyway. So we're going to start out with your name. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to build on that. So we're going to change the color out like so. Remember, we're thinking dynamic, yeah, with this, so that could change. And one of the things you've got to do when you're working with any sort of data, to be honest, is you've got to look at the data. right, you've got to have a quick scan down. If I just bring that onto the screen just for a moment, the list that I was using earlier. Right, now I've put this into a text editor, which is where we can actually start. We're going to start with a text editor actually to begin with, and then we'll work our way into a spreadsheet and making it slightly easier to work with, but also upping the complexity just a tiny bit. Okay, but look at this just now, right? You'll notice there's something at the top here, right? This describes the data underneath. You'll also notice the complete absence of any extra returns. They're a no-no. Yeah, you can't have empty lines in this. It just doesn't work. They've got to have some sort of property in them. Okay, and then, well, you can have empty columns, but not empty rows. That just doesn't work. It will break. So you can see all of these names. So scanning down this visually, I've already seen the longest name in this list. Right, it's this one here, Altagracia, which I'm not even sure if that is a real name or if it really is computer generated. I don't know. If that is your name when you're watching, epic, right? Because it's an epic name, but I just don't know if anybody's using it. Anyway, right, there we are. So you need to look at the data first. And even when you've got your data connected, right, to your graphics, you need to kind of test it. And tomorrow, when we're actually building the graphics right out, what we're going to do as well is we're going to look at how we can export them quickly without us having to do it, which is always a good thing, right? The more we can do, and especially if you're charging people by the hour, right? If you're just a jobbing designer working freelance and you're doing a job and saying, right, that's going to take me 2 hours to do that. If you presented this, if you told me you've got 50 names of this to do, right, in the design that we're going to build here, yeah, and I went to you and said, that's going to take 2 hours to do that, you're going to think that's fairly reasonable, right? But if you can build the design in one and output all of the files in 2 minutes, that means you've earned an extra hour on top. It's all about the cunning skills.
That's working smarter.
That also is working smarter.
Tony, sorry to interrupt you. I have a question for you to demonstrate because I was in the chat and I've spotted this question, and I think that is a very valuable to use this time to share with everybody. So you can do it now, you can do it in a bit. But there was a Simon asking why when export his file in PNG, everything is size, everything is perfect, but then exporting there is a different size. I asked if the problem was an extra pixels, and he said yes. So I thought that the main issue is the location of the canvas the location of the artboard inside the canvas. So I was suggesting just to cut the decimal from the position values, but I think it would be so much more helpful if you could actually show us on screen what that means.
So he wants to, so just run that by me again, Claudia, sorry. So he's got stuff that isn't exporting properly.
Yeah, so let's say that, you want a Facebook advert, which is 1200 by 630, and he's got his size, artboard size perfectly, his shapes, his background, everything is perfect in terms of sizes. But when you export, Illustrator exports with an extra pixel. Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Okay, so basically sometimes due to the grid in which the canvas is split in Illustrator, if we do have a decimal, into the position.
Yes.
That
I've
can
got
happen.
you.
So yeah, perfect.
No, I've got you exactly. Thank you very much. Sorry,
No
I was not quite. Yes. Okay, so that is one of the occasions where you need to ideally work with a document that understands a pixel grid. Yeah, here with these numbers in millimeters, that's fine if I'm working in millimeters. Doesn't matter what unit I work in. But if I switch to you working in pixels, you don't want any, like, as you said, you don't want any decimals in there, because even if it finds 1/100th of an extra pixel, it will move up to the next number. So it will move to 1, which means you get an extra pixel the whole way around. Right? It's got to be perfect, bang on. And Illustrator does have a mechanism to actually help you with that. Right. So if you here, I'm getting, you can see these things, these decimal numbers. If it was something that was on the edge of a graphic, so this what is this on here? 858.9883. It's going to become 859. So if I've got anything that trips over the edge, and sometimes, and I can show you where that occurs most often, is this. If I go ahead and get my rectangle tool here, whoops a daisy, I didn't realize I had an active field. I'm going to draw a rectangle, around this artboard like so. Okay. I'm then going to hold down Shift and tap X. So I've swapped this out. Okay. And I'll make the stroke maybe 20 points here just to make the point. No pun intended. Right. From that. Just pretend it's 1, but we're doing it in big. This is a common mistake. People draw a border like this and they say 1 point, but that means half a point is on either side of that line. And that half a point, when you're working with pixels, will become 1 pixel. Yeah, that's kind of how it works. Is that helpful? Is that kind of getting across?
Yes, and there is also another techniques, because in this case is the size is everything is correct, and is actually there is no decimal in the size of the shape and of the artwork. But I find that issue myself sometimes, especially certain websites require a specific upload to the pixel. So that's when you usually encounter this particular issue by moving the size of the artboard. So also the positioning of the artboard within the canvas, you will be able to avoid that. So if the actual size is correct, so you do not have any decimal into your shape or into your artwork, then you need to go and delete the decimal from the positioning of the canvas, and that will override the issue when
absolutely exporting. Yeah, that's top stuff. That is here I am actually. I've just selected the artboard tool, which Shift O is the accelerator to get to that, and these are the fields that Claudi's talking about. The ones just here at the top, the X and Y. If it says 960.1 or whatever, that's where you're going to get a problem. You need to have that as a rounded number, because you might inadvertently move that. There you go. I've got 970.827. That's going to end up resolving, there's the word to do it, to a whole different number. That will become 971. So as Claudia just said, bring it down. Yeah. So you're just using whole numbers in there like so.
Correct. Yep. And that will not change the size of your artwork at all whatsoever. It will just make sure that it gets resolved into a perfect size. And then you can upload it to the website without a problem. So Simon, hopefully that helped. And I think that's some hidden trick. It took a while. It happened to me many years ago. So I think that's one of the hidden, tips that is hard to spot unless you enjoy, like us, spending hours with this kind of stuff.
Things. Oh man, honestly, asset export is so good, but I find myself dropping transparent boxes over the top of. So if I draw an icon set, I tend to draw it within a box that has no fill or stroke. So that it exports at exactly the right size I want. It doesn't go, and it doesn't also have strokes bleeding off the edge. And in fact, I've got library items that I could show you, including my own Design Ninja logo. Where bits of it are cut off.
Let's see it properly.
Bad hats. There we go. That's what it looks like on my head. But yeah, that's the thing with doing that. Anyway, right, back to where we are on this one. No worries. Right, okay, so let's get my appearance panel out, because I love this panel so much. I'm going to add, so I've got my text just here. You can see type, characters, new fill, Command / remember to do that. I'm going to bring that down beneath the characters. Okay, I'm going to do a few things here. I'm going to fill it with that color because I kind of like it, the one I made earlier. Okay, and I'm going to change this to, I'm going to convert it to an ellipse. Like so. This time I am going to use absolute numbers. Okay, so I think, what did I have last time? I think I had something like 600, wasn't it? Or something like that. No, it's even bigger than that. Wow. I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard here, by the way, the up arrow, but I'm holding down Shift, which makes it multiply in tens. So 900 is pretty good. So I'm going to give this 900 by 900, like so. Ooh, look.
I'm opening a new shop.
Yes. This week at Clardy, we've got. Okay, I'm going to shade that a little bit. I'm going to shade it with some hot orange. Right, so I'm going to put a hot orange stroke on there. Now, I actually want to take this ellipse effect and apply it to the stroke. Here's the thing. I can hold down the Alt or Option key and drag that effect onto the stroke. Dun, dun, dun. And I think I want to go to 80 just there. Then I'm also going to use the offset path business here, like so. So I'm going to do this by -40, and I'm working in points. So PT on the end there, just to make sure I get predictable results. Yes, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm also going to drag that down beneath the characters as well. Now I'm going to change this to a gradient, actually. So period key for that. I'm going to go ahead and work with my gradient. So I'm going to change this to hot orange to hot orange. There, like so, across the stroke. Ooh. Do you know what? I think we could handle a bit more big strokage there. I'm going to go to 120. Then I'm going to modify that. Okay, like so. I'm going to go to the offset path, and so that now needs to be -60, half of the stroke width. Just there. Check that out. There
Brilliant.
we go. We've got some stuff going on there. I think it would be a good idea, a wise idea for me to save this into this folder.
I think that's a very good reminder, but it does happen.
Saving is a good
Yes.
plan.
Absolutely.
But you sometimes get lost. Do you get lost in the moment sometimes?
Oh,
you have an
Tony,
idea.
I have Untitled 12 open currently. Behind the screen, there are a couple. I think the Untitled 7 and Untitled 12. They're looking at me right now, hoping to be saved at some point before everything crashes.
Oh man, I picked up a project. So one of my oldest clients, we haven't worked together for quite a few years now, probably about 10 years since the last time we actually worked together. They built a really big company, and I was instrumental in doing that. I did a whole load of things. I designed interfaces for products that I could never show because they were all under NDA. Could never show them, but did them, and they rewarded me very well for doing them. And anyway, we've not worked together for quite a long time. And they've come back to me and asked me to work on a project, the last ever project they will do with me. But they tempted me with this thing, and I started sketching out something the other day. And it's so super rare for something like Photoshop to crash, right? Because I was just sketching the thing out in Photoshop. And I just got to this point where I thought, oh, do you know what? That's actually working. Yeah. I hadn't saved it. Yeah. Boof. It's one of those times where it crashed and it did not auto recover.
Oh. Is the same is yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say, fortunately, I've got quite a good memory, so I was able to get back to where I was.
Yeah, but auto-save visual memory, photographic memory. But it's always the case when stuff works perfectly. That's when they crash. They never crash, just when things are right.
It's just madness.
Can be always right, of course.
Yeah, it's and it's oh man, but it got me in trouble at home because I'd kind of I had to stay back and I had to spend time doing that.
Lots of love to Sharon.
You know what, Sharon puts up with a lot, right? But she's you know what she's like? She's like, oh, but you said you got to that. You'd done that already. You were coming home. I said, yeah, I kind of didn't save it.
Then it crashed.
And it crashed, yeah. But I mean, it's so rare, and but having said that,
ooh, we have a comment here, which I think is a great suggestion. Jane is saying, so why not to use the cloud document, which save automatically?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Cloud documents are great for doing that, but not everything can be saved as a cloud document.
Ooh.
That's no. There are different things. So sometimes some customers get really freaked out by things being out there in the cloud, and it doesn't matter. The Creative Cloud is way secure. It uses a higher level of encryption than banks do. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it's RSA. I think Don't quote me on this exactly, but I think it's is it RSA? I can't remember exactly what it is now, but I think one of them is 256-bit and the other's 128-bit. And I think Banks uses 128 and Creative Cloud uses the higher one.
Wonderful.
I'm not sure how current that is, but anyway, the basically underlying message here is it's kind of tight. Yeah, so, we're all good.
And also, in order to save it to Creative Cloud document, you got to save. And the problem is we do not save it all.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've not saved it at all, nothing's going to help you out. That's mind you, auto recovery on Illustrator is pretty good. Illustrator's pretty good, and indeed on Photoshop and on InDesign. Even if you haven't saved it, it's normally within a few milliseconds of where it crashed. But
yeah, and it actually happened during a stream. Like I was on a creative challenge, which is a very tight stream, and it happened. It crashed. I didn't save the file, and I reopened it, and I had the work there, just one step behind. So it saved me. I got saved by Illustrator.
Saved by Illustrator. Right. Here we go. We're in dangerous territory now with completely unrehearsed stuff going on. I just thought, do you know what? Let's put Claudi's name into this. I've not done a particularly great job of lining all that text up, but, hey ho. Right. What we're going to do, because, we've been talking about the principles around creating things for dynamic data, but we've not done any dynamic data, and I'm not letting everybody go without us having some dynamic data in. So we're going to put that in right now.
Perfect.
Okay. This comes down to this lovely panel, the variables panel here in Illustrator. Like other panels, it's found here in the window menu. There it goes, just there, like so. Along with its other friends like SVG interactivity. Ooh. Yeah, CSS properties. Ooh, these are the ones that you're going like, what now?
And asset export as well. And
asset export is so good. And then you've got stuff here from other plugins and what have you. What I need first of all is I need some data. Now I'm hoping I've saved this in the right place, this particular thing, but we'll find out in a second. I'm going to import some data. It tells me how I can import it. Either needs to be XML or CSV. So sadly, it won't link out to any old spreadsheet. Yeah, it has to be one of these formats. XML is cool, but XML is a bit harder to work with. I'm not doing any XML just here. CSV, comma separated values. Yeah, that's what that stands for. Is pretty straightforward. Okay, and you don't even need a spreadsheet program to do it. If you're patient, yeah, and you know where the comma is on your keyboard, you can do it. Right, so I'm going to choose import, and then I'm going to go to this. Oh, look, friends list simple. I'm just going to preview that. Yes. And open. Dun, dun, dun. So I am going to highlight this text just here. I am going to make the text dynamic. Now, at the moment, it doesn't know. Ooh, it doesn't know where that L character is because I substituted a character just there. Now, at the moment, it's just using the text that I put there. So it could have said anything. Yeah, it could have said Tony, could have said Claudia, could have said Tim, whatever. Yeah, could have been a phone number. Doesn't really matter. The data is bound, however, now to this variable. That's what the F name bit is at the top, right? So I'm going to bring this in. If this was in a spreadsheet, this would be at the top of the column. It identifies this variable. Yeah. If there were more, right, I'd comma separate them out, and then the commas would have to match what was going on underneath. You'll see one like that in fact, I can show you one just now. If I go and get one here, just give me just a second. I want to make this all a bit bigger.
Excited. And while you get that to the screen, I just want to remind everybody that we are also diving in right now into the variable data, but we're going to spend much more time tomorrow as well here with Tony. So everybody who tuned in just right now, we have about half an hour here with the wonderful Tony, the design ninja. And today we've been exploring some of the foundation of styling object using the appearance panel in Illustrator and many more important foundation for you to work smarter while working here in Illustrator. And we're just starting to overlook it and to see how dynamic data and variable data works. But again, we're going to be here tomorrow. So stay here with us today. And don't worry, we're going to have much more time to explore this topic. And by the way, let me know in the chat if you've used this panel before. Let us know in the chat if it's the first time that you're seeing it or if you used it before.
Yes. Okay, I'll just show you a slightly more complicated list here that I've just pulled on. So this one has, and you'll find out all about these tomorrow. Okay, all about what these different things mean. So you can see here, I've got a variable called F name, a variable called L name, a level variable, hashtag red, hash black, hash gray, at background, at icon. So these are all things, right, we'll be doing tomorrow. These things, what the at means there, what the hash means, okay, all of that good stuff. But you can see here each one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 variables there. And underneath it, each line has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 just there. Okay. Ooh, so good. Right. So you'll see more of that tomorrow. Anyway, here in Illustrator, I go back to it. I'm now going to bring in my first data set. Okay. So at the moment, I've just got the graphic. It's bound to a variable, but it's just got some placeholder text in it. I'm now going to pick a data set 1, which is Sam. Doof, there we go. Suddenly, it's become a logo for Sam. If I cycle through the data sets, which I can use these arrows to do at the top here, okay, you'll see that as I do this, so here's the names. There you go. Notice that I'm going with names of the people on the team here, by the way. So there's you, and there's Claire, and there's Paco. Hey, Paco,
our
in the
lovely
background,
Paco, that is here,
making it all happen,
making it look pretty, as I say all the time.
Yep.
I miss being in San Francisco because I look so much prettier on the screen thanks to the Paco magic in the studio.
Oh, you look lovely.
Yeah, because Paco is here. You guys don't see it, but we have our amazing studio production, everything, making the stream iPad manager. Paco behind the scene that help us out every single time that we're here live.
Oh man, we've got great people, Paco, and we've got Tim, of course, over in Europe. Great people who do great stuff to make us look excellent. Okay, so you can see that as I cycle through these, in fact, there's Tim. Tim, that's you, Tim. So showing you some love in the spreadsheet. There's my friend Susan, who's hopefully watching. If you're watching, Susan, hi. And you can probably see, I normally have a Tuesday meeting with Susan, but I actually had to not have the Tuesday meeting last night because I went home early. I went home at 2 o'clock. I was in bed by just before 8 o'clock. So I was feeling so rubbish with this cold. Wow. There you are, Susan. Now I can start to cycle through the made up names, but you can see how this is working. Now I'm going to crank this up yet another notch. Right, I'm just going to double click on the word variables there to collapse that panel because I think I could go further. I think I could do something very, very cool with this. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to kind of group this lot here. So while I've got this selected, yeah, seems funny because there's only the text, right? But I'm going to group it. You'll see now it says it's a group with contents, yeah, inside of it. I'm going to add a new fill. Okay, so Command / look what's happening there. The group gets its own fill. Yes, says the group. I'm so excited, says the group. I'm going to click here on that fill. I'm going to go to my effects like so. And I'm going to go to path, offset path. Ooh, la, 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 la. Now I'm getting this nice sort of boundary around the sides. Now I've got some sharp corners there. Whenever you've got sharp corners, there's the potential for disaster. So what I'm going to do is make sure that any sharp corners get rounded off. If you look at the tail of that S just there, if I go back to mitering, yeah, it's got kind of a funny point going at a distance there. If I went to bevel, it would square it off. That looks even worse, in my opinion, for this one. Round, though, makes it nice and safe, like the scissors that I'm allowed to use at home. There you go. The nice round ones. No, Tony, just the round scissors.
Good.
Right. So I've got that just there like so. I'm going to do a quick save because it's always a good idea, especially with what I've just decided I'm going to do next. I'm going to go into the contents just here, and there's my type and there's my characters, like so. How crazy is that?
So
I can even
exciting.
try actually with, so I've got those various different fills there. I should have added another fill for the type really, for me to do something even more clever, but perhaps we'll keep that for tomorrow. But now if I go back to my variables and start to cycle through that, can you see that?
So exciting.
Now, here's the thing. With these gaps that appear just here, it's just possible that I might be able to do something to close those gaps. Okay, if I go back to my appearance here, okay, and I'll go back to the group at the top, you notice it was at the top just there. I'm going to go to that fill. I'm going to go down to the effects, and there are some pathfinders here. Now, they work slightly differently inside of this panel to the pathfinders that you use, okay, from the Pathfinder panel. But I'm going to choose merge. Look at that. Suddenly, those negative gaps have filled in, right? So now, when I do that, it's almost as if they were embroidered artwork. Whenever they leave the edges, if there's a hole there that it can fill up, it will fill that hole. Ingeborg, that's another name I'm interested in from this computer-generated list. Is your name Ingeborg? And if it is, let's be friends.
Let us know.
It's a great name.
And that's
if you
also
see anybody
great
in
when
the chat with Ingeborg,
I will
send them a
definitely.
prize.
But I was going to say that that's also great when creating stickers. Your printer would absolutely love you, because they do have trouble sometimes with this little spaces in between the line when you create. Let's imagine that the black outline that we have there is usually the white outline that we have around stickers. So with these wonderful tricks, and I wish I could actually say to everybody, this is the time to take notes, because that's like top quality tips and techniques to create in such a wonderful way using that Pathfinder. And I love the fact also, Tony, that you're showing us in the appearance panel how the different naming changes between the character, the group, and how we can apply, and how the name tag also changes depending on what we're targeting within, because I think that sometimes can be confusing if people have not accessed the appearance panel very often. So thank you so much.
I'm just going to see if I can break it now. So this is me trying to break it. Ooh. Ooh. That's yeah.
Well, that's a brand new feature. So
yeah, it's sort of working. I should have applied this to the text and let the background go as it was. I just thought I'd give that a go and just see if that actually worked out for that. Not the most successful. So I'm just going to take that 3D materials. Actually, I could try and apply it to... Let's try. No, actually, I'll get rid of it. There we go. Drag that away. But you can see there that it's just, kind of worked. If I did the whole thing before I grouped it, I'm just going to ungroup this just now, so it goes back to being this type. Now, something else I should have done here, right? But I didn't do it at the beginning, right? Because I just wanted to build out the whole thing. This fill that's applied to the characters, if I double click on that, you can see there's that red fill at the moment. That's not a great thing to have here. What I tend to do whenever I'm working with type, okay, is I tend to remove that fill. Now here, because I've got a build in progress, I'm going to need to change that to none, like so. Okay, so the type itself has no appearance at the moment. Now you might think that's a bit crazy, yeah, but I kind of want it that way. Because now I can apply another fill, a brand new fill on top of it. It can look exactly the same as the other one did, if I want it to, just here. But now, because I have that fill, I can go ahead and do something like use that inflate, but just on that shape, just there. So I can change that. I could extrude it. I could rotate it around. I could do a whole bunch of different things with it. Okay, so I've got my inflate just here. Oh, I went to do that on the whole object again. Okay, because I clicked away from it. Let's move this over this side. Just here. I make my interface large so that when I'm live streaming, people can see the icons on here, but it does play...
Reduce your space.
Yeah, it does. Makes the, the ability you've got to go. So I'm going to change the volume just here down a little bit. So it's just got a hint of 3D-ness about it. There you go. So that's working pretty well, I think. Just there. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat where I was before. So I'll group this. I'll add my new fill just as before, bring that down beneath the contents, and then use that offset path. So this is something else you'll want to familiarize yourself, right, with are the available effects that you've got here. Okay, with that. So I'm just going to dial that up like so. I'm going to put rounded just down on there. That looks pretty good as it is. That is a bit heavy on the old stroke there. So just dial that down. There we go. Something like that is good. Again, with that highlighted, just in case there are going to be gaps, Pathfinder merge there, or if it's not working out, if that suddenly disappears as it did, you can click on merge and you can sometimes try a different option. So I just tried add. You've got all of your different Pathfinders here. Okay. Merge and add are the ones that we need for this kind of job. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. Now we can test that out by cycling through our data set. So now everything, it will take slightly longer because Illustrator's got to kind of come up with the 3D-ness of it. Okay. But there's still something missing for me, you know, Claudie. There's still something
What are we missing? What are we missing?
Well, it's great having this bold line around the outside, but there's nothing kind of in the middle. Let's just go through to another one here. There's nothing, you know, it's kind of not strong in that particular area just there. So I want to change that a little bit. I think handy thing I can do is I can go into the contents here. Okay. And I'm going to add another fill. I'm just going to go with this fill here, and I don't want the ellipse stuff. So I'm going to bring that up underneath this one. Okay. So just up to here. Let's just bring that up like so to there. I can get rid of the ellipse on that. I don't want it. I just want this fill. I think I'm going to go with I'm going to go with a sort of a brown color here just for the moment. And then I'll use that distort and transform. And then I'm going to nudge this around a little bit. I think I'm vertically going to nudge it down just a little bit there. Ooh. Okay. There we go. We've got something going on there. I might also scale it just fractionally horizontally. There we go. Can you see that? If you look at the fine points there on the side of that, it's suddenly got just a little bit more
lifting it
dimension. Yeah, now it becomes more of a thing. Of course, the more steps you add in, the longer it will take, for it to create each one. But when we get to the point of automation tomorrow, then we won't have to worry about that because we'll already be there drinking a coffee and just like going, or whatever other beverages are available.
Well, mine will be on the table or my jackets and phones.
I like to drink my drinks. You like to use them as a fashion accessory, which is kind of interesting, really.
My keyboard is loving it. It's all flashing and flickering at the moment. But in the meantime, Tony, we in the chat, we have a different user for this dynamic way of applying variable data. So we have, let me go ahead and check the different name because I like to name our different tips. So because someone mentioned we can use it, or we got Oliver mentioned we can use it for sets for games, or we can use it for your team. I think Val was talking about if you have a very large team, you can produce badges for everybody inside your company very quickly. So there are so many applications where you can use it. So we are of course making badges during the stream, but you can really use that anywhere. Business card, that's an example, classic example where you can use variable data, so you can very easily have the same design and keep your brand consistent, but change only certain details inside your design. And there is a question. We have about 3 minutes before, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. And Val is asking if there is a mass export batch with different data set names?
You can export as a batch. You need to do something else though, which is what we're going to cover off tomorrow. So when you do this, it's not quite the same here. You don't have, as you do in InDesign, for example, a batch to work to, but we're going to work around that tomorrow on how we can go ahead and take all of this information, and then use it to generate the assets that we want. There.
And then we have a question, which is, Simon is asking, can we use it for NFTs?
That's a very good question. I don't have a ready answer for that. I guess so.
Yes, of course.
Why not?
It's just a way in which you generate your design.
Yep.
So perhaps you can use it to number different design that you created for NFTs, or really for anything that you want. Is a technique. And that's the beauty. I think, Tony, you were showing us very clearly that the beauty of using these techniques, and by editing with the wonderful appearance panels, that you can go back, change your mind, and change the way that your objects look over and over again. So, you can experiment as much as you want and take your time to get your design right before you show it to your client, to your director. And then if there is any change, everything is live, and if everything is ready to be edited again.
Yep, that's the beauty of it. You've got something that's built on a solid architecture of variability. Everything there you can change.
We have one more question from Stony asking, after you get this done, can it be saved and brought it to After Effects?
After Effects will see. So it's not the best use for this in After Effects, but I mean, if you've got the appearance, if you just want this as an appearance, you can bring that in. But After Effects won't. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it will actually work with your data set. I'd have to look into that. I've never actually tried that. After Effects has a different kind of mechanism, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it will just get the single flat. But we can talk about interoperability, if I can even pronounce it.
Interoperability.
Interoperability. Tomorrow.
We say these days. You should be down with the kids by now, Cardiff. Interop. That's how we call it.
Interop. All right. I need to get into the new terminology. But unfortunately, it is time to wrap up. I can see more questions coming up about exporting. Make sure to stay tuned, because tomorrow we're going to be back at the same time, which is 12 p.m. Pacific time, here with the one and only design ninja, Tony Harmer. So we will be back, and we're going to be talking more about variable assets, variable data, how to use. There's many more tricks and tips and techniques. I always say the word tricks because it always looks like magic effect here at Adobe Live with Tony. So make sure to stay tuned. You can watch the replay if you just joined, and then of course you can join us tomorrow as well, 12 p.m. Pacific, for part 2 of creating personalized event badges. And okay, of course, now the fun is not finished here at Adobe Live. There is always something cool going on. There is always busy bees creating wonderful stuff. In fact, stay tuned, because there will be the XD Creative Challenge coming up with Jesse Showalter. And tomorrow morning, the day is going to start with a brand new Creative Cloud Express stream with the wonderful Creative Cloud Express evangelist Catherine Torrijos, learning how to create a mood board for free using the Creative Cloud Express for web. So thank you so much, everybody, for spending this wonderful time with us. Thank you, Tony. It's been a blast. So happy to be here with you. And of course, I will catch you tomorrow, same time, same place at Adobe Live.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.